I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so I decided to make a really easy slow roasted tomato soup. It's from this fabulous cookbook, which I love, which I have from the library, but as you can see, I might need to just go buy it. So my variation is even more laid back than the recipe because I don't have fresh basil right now. The caterpillars ate all my fresh basil. So anyway, so I'm gonna turn it around and show you what I'm doing. I've already sprayed this pan with a little bit of Pam because yesterday I made this same soup. It ended up it didn't stick, but it did leave a lot of, it was kind of a pain to clean up. So I'm just using random canned tomatoes. Yesterday I used whole Italian tomatoes or something like that. Today I'm just using these, which is funny because, you know, they're already fire roasted and I'm about to roast them. But I had them and they're easy, and this way I don't have to cut them up. If you're using bigger tomatoes, you may want to cut them up. And I'm using, the recipe calls for a 29-ounce can, and I'm using 3 14.5-ounce cans because I got the impression that it doesn't actually matter that much. So, let's see. I'm kind of tempted to just pour oil on this, but I will actually measure it out. Yesterday I screwed it up and misread the cookbook. It said a 1/4 cup of oil, and I put 3/4 cup of oil, which was clearly way too much. And then so the things were drowning in oil. So I took, like, I sort of plucked the tomatoes out, and then I took the oil that was left over and filtered it and put it in a little jar. So I'm going to use that. Okay, let's see, quick math. Normally I'd use my phone for this, but since my phone is recording, let's see, 13 grams times 4 is something around 56 grams, right? It's like 13 would be 26. Oh wait, so 26, 56 would be like 52. I don't know. I don't think it really matters. It doesn't have to be that precise. I just like to get sort of close-ish. Okay, 59, close enough. Okay, so then we're supposed to sprinkle it. I think we're supposed to sprinkle it with like fresh basil. But again, poor basil got demolished by local caterpillars. So I'm gonna just use a little just dried basil. I don't know. And then it says salt and pepper to taste, which kind of cracks me up because I don't really know how you're gonna taste this. I mean, I don't know. I don't like, so this is kind of funny. I actually really don't like tomatoes in any kind of chunky state, which is why this soup is perfect for me, because then I get to blend it all up. Okay, so I'm just gonna sprinkle some sea salt on, and I've already started preheating the oven. It's supposed to preheat to 300, and it's not there yet, but I don't really care. I'm gonna slide that in and set a timer for 90 minutes. So obviously for this one, you really want to plan ahead. And yeah, that's actually why I didn't make it until yesterday, because I never actually plan far enough ahead to make something that requires 90 minutes of cooking. But I'll come back once the time's up and show you where we're going from there. Okay, my potatoes have been roasting. My tomatoes have been roasting for a good long time. One thing that the recipe doesn't specifically call for, but I think makes sense, is to warm up your milk. And I feel like it's gonna work a lot better that way. When I did it yesterday, I didn't warm up my milk, and then I just relied on my Vitamix to sort of heat it for me. Recipe calls for 1.5 cups, which is 12 ounces. I'm going to go a little bit more since I put in a little bit more tomatoes. I'm going to go for 16 ounces. I don't know. It really doesn't have to be that precise. Anyways, I used my Vitamix to heat up the milk, which was fine, except that it made the soup sort of fluffy. So I'm just gonna put it in for a minute or two. I'm using almond milk, just sort of the original almond milk. You can obviously use regular dairy milk if you prefer. The upshot of doing, I mean, not that this is an upside unless you care about that, but the upside of doing almond milk is that it's now a vegan soup, which I only care because I am, seem to be a little bit lactose intolerant. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to take the tomatoes out. Mine have been actually roasting for closer to an hour and 40 minutes because I was busy coding something for my work. But you'll see here that it's pretty, you know, it's not nearly as runny as it was. It's still a little bit runny, and that's okay. It is soup after all, or it's going to be. I think this needs another minute. Okay, so then I'm going to just scoop the tomatoes. I'd try and dump them, but I feel like if I try to dump them, I'm gonna end up splashing myself with boiling liquid. So let's avoid boiling liquid splashing. I'll probably dump the very end of it, but this is getting fairly tedious. I don't have the patience for this kind of thing. I should say, you may want to, you know, if you're particularly sensitive to salt, you might want to salt on the lighter side when you first salt your tomatoes before you cook them, because you can always add more after it's cooked. I think if I had to guess, I would say there's probably some sort of chemistry benefit to adding some. I know that salt tends to pull water out of things, but I don't know if that's related to this or not. Okay, I'm gonna dump the last of the liquid. I'm successfully, so far, knock on wood, not burning myself. Okay. Probably good enough. I'm just going to dump that in the sink. Adding the, using the Pam cooking spray seems to have made a big difference. The pan yesterday was all black around the edges where it had cooked on. This one doesn't seem nearly as bad. Okay, so this temperature is, this milk is sort of warm, not hot, but the tomatoes are pretty hot. So if you do not have a Vitamix, if you have a blender with a sealed lid, be really careful doing this. I think they usually suggest doing it in batches so that you don't end up creating a lot of pressure. And I'm not saying the Vitamix is somehow magic. It's got, what I'm getting at is it's got these, let's see, right there, it's got these vents, so it keeps it from building up too much steam. I've heard that you can actually manage to explode blender jars, and that's not good. So this is what it looks like. Let me tilt this. Pre-mixing. And I'm gonna try and do 6 things at once here. Drag out the blender. like my Hello Kitty toaster. Okay, tilt that up a little. Not that it's actually that exciting to watch things blend. And also, hey, look, there's a window. But still, since we're here. Okay, so I'm just going to start out slow. Pick it up as we go. Turn on the light. Okay, so that's probably good enough for most normal people. I really don't like chunks, so I think it's probably even good enough for me, but I might go a little further even. So then I'm just going to taste it and see if it needs more salt. Of course, I'm got a cold, so I probably won't be able to taste it well anyways. It is very hot. I can see it's still steaming. And I really like having complete function of my lips and the roof of my mouth, so I'm going to wait a second. You know what? This is pretty good. So I'm going to blend it a little bit more because it's still got a little too much texture for me. But you obviously have the ability to blend it more or less. This does not require a fancy blender if you heat your milk first. So just any blender will do. The recipe also calls for pepper. I'm not a huge pepper fan. Like, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So I left it out because this soup is for me. But I wish you well with your soup, and hopefully you're not sick. One thing that I meant to mention and forgot is that the cookbook suggests garnishing this with a nice, pretty sprig of basil, like that. Again, I don't have any basil right now. It also suggests drizzling a little bit of olive oil, so those are a couple things you can do to make it look extra pretty. I'm just going to have mine plain, and I'm going to love it anyway.